Hey guys, this is Daniel Alexander Cannon, and welcome to the Supernatural Show. And with me again today is my co host, Shannon of Soul 7 Music on YouTube. And we have a good show for you today. We've got a story that, as I tell it, and as we go through the things after the story, you might want to think about it and you might want to do a little research about it and understand why it's so important, because it is. On this show, what we do is we uh, have people write in to the show, and it's people meaning you the viewer, write in, submit your story, which you can do on the Supernatural Show website, and it's the Supernatural Show. It's not .com, it's .show. So the Supernatural Show. Submit your story. You can also attach links and attach files and submit it. You can choose whether or not you would like to come on sometime with me and Shannon and tell your story live, or you can choose to just remain anonymous, you might say, and put in your name or nickname and just share it with us by writing it. You can also call in from time to time. We're going to be doing call ins. And we're not going to be doing that in this show, but we will be doing call ins as our audience grows. And I can tell already we're growing because I can see the numbers. So, yeah, looking good. So, yeah, we've got a good show for you today. How are you doing today, Shannon?
I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. I hope all of you guys out there are doing good too.
That's a nice hat you got there. That's interesting looking. You having a bad hair day or something? Be honest now.
I have some roots. I'm sure you saw the last.
Okay.
For me as a hairdresser, it's a little. Yeah,
She's hiding her hair.
a little.
Yeah, I'm hiding my teeth because I got the front end of my teeth busted by a helmet years ago, and they had them fixed, but the filling and everything have come out of them out across here, and I'm a little embarrassed, but I'll get it fixed soon enough, and I'm not that worried about my vanity, so we'll just,
We're human, right?
yeah, we're human.
Kind
Yeah. What do we do?
Non-perfectness is kind of our thing. It happens. Non-perfectness. Anyways.
So today, Shannon, as we were talking about before the show a little bit, we're going to get into the subject of supernatural visions. People having visions, and what is that, and uh, what does it really mean? And specifically, the vision she had, it's very important and ties directly into what's happening right now and what's already been planned. And yeah, I am excited to explain it, and I'm almost wanting to get ahead of myself and start explaining it, but we're gonna try to keep things in order here. So what I'm gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and get right in, not waste anybody's time, and get right into this story. After this story, and after we're done with everything related to the story, then I'm gonna tell a story um, that is supernatural as well, and yeah, so we're going to do that. It's going to be related to, oh gosh, I've got so many different stories that I could tell. Let me just wait. I'm going to decide which one I want to tell, because if I can, I want to tell one that's related to the subject matter. So let me get my mind back in it, read the story, and it'll probably clear up for me which story I want to tell. So bear with me on that one. So now let's get going. What I'm going to do is share my screen. And matter of fact, I'll go ahead and share it just the way it is. Let y'all guys take a little peek at the live numbers of the show right now. Yeah, so we're clicking right along. Just a little baby show getting started, but we are growing well and growing quickly. I would ask y'all guys to please take a moment if you like the show, and it don't have to be at this point because what's the like yet? But if you like this show, please, how about do me a favor and share it? This kind of show and message can be shared with anybody. So please do that and hit the little thumbs up button, even though I don't even like doing thumbs up and all that. For the algorithms within the different platforms because we're streaming live to YouTube today, Facebook, and Telegram. And I also stream live sometimes to Twitter and um, TikTok. Yeah, so, but we're doing those three today. Uh-oh, what happened to my screen? Come back. Don't disappear on me yet. Okay, whew, you never know. All right, so let's take a look. Let me go ahead and blow this up so everybody can see it better. Today we're going to be telling Michelle's supernatural story. It's called The Dark Rider Vision. That's what I named it after I read it and everything. So The Dark Rider Vision. Okay, and this is what Michelle wrote. Got to clear my throat. Daniel, I have followed you for a very long time. I rarely comment. I'm glad you decided to do the Supernatural Show channel. My whole life, I've experienced so many supernatural things, both of light and dark. I have many stories I could tell you. I was searching for your supernatural channel and finally found it. I watched the episode of the women you had on, the woman you had on as your co-host, telling her story of the man praying outside the door of the church. Beautiful story, and the warning of death she understood it to be was truth. I have way too much to say, but will try to keep it not so long. I often dream things, and or sometimes I wonder if I am remote viewing or astro traveling. Either way, I am not sure. But in the summer of 2020, when the event began, and I'm going to keep going here, but I just want to say a couple things she called it was uh, remote viewing or astro traveling. Way back in time, they called it a seer. Okay, when you had visions or when you uh, knew things, you could see things coming. You were called a seer, and then it kind of changed, even in the scriptures, which I'll show you this in scripture here in a little bit. It went from seer to prophet. Okay, and yeah, so I wanted to share that with you. So now let's keep going. All the world was focused on the I had a dream. It started that I found myself in a place that was destroyed in ruins. I was digging through the broken rubble for anything to survive. I don't know whether it was night or maybe something happened that there was no sun, but it was dark, like night. I saw no moon or stars. The rubble I was digging through was at somewhere where there was columns like Roman style pillars. I saw a huge concrete slab, maybe several blocks worth, and the entire structure was crumbled except a few pillars that were partially torn down. There was enough of the few pillars left that I could see the grooves running down the columns, and to me it reminded me either of Roman architecture in Rome or maybe the White House in the USA. Either way, I was at this location and digging through the rubble. As I said, it was dark. I was hunched down, like squatting on my feet, digging, when out of the corner of my eye, I saw something moving through the sky. I did not turn my body, only my head, still crouched down, and to my surprise, I saw a black horse and its rider riding through the sky. Now, all of this happened really quick, so I'll try to explain the best I can. When I saw the horse, it was pretty high up in the sky, but as soon as I saw it, my vision was like binoculars, and I could see up very close to it. I saw every detail. The horse was like a regular horse like we have here on Earth. It had no wings. It was black, and I could see its reins, its hair, everything. The horse was pulling a Roman style chariot where only one person can get in. The kind that the back is open and you would just walk in and stand in it. I saw the chariot had all kinds of carved detail along it, and the color was also black. Now, the being that was driving this chariot was also black, but not like a black person, like the color of skin. No, it was wearing blackness. I don't know, but it looked female to me, and it is like a human, but not a human. It had all the same things as we have, like arms, legs, face, neck, feet, hands, etc. However, it is built differently than humans. It was extremely tall and very thin. Not thin like starving, no, just it was the way it was made. I saw her face, her clothes, everything of her. She had a crown on her head that was Egyptian style. I could see the gems in her crown. The crown did not have a lip or rim where it touches the head. Instead, it is straight flush with the head. I can honestly say she was perfect in her looks, but she was covered in darkness. I've seen gods, angels of light, and even though they have clothes on, their clothes are made of light. Just the same, this thing had clothes, but was made or wearing darkness. That's why it was black. I saw all this as the horse was just galloping through the sky, and she was looking down at the earth, and I saw her face was very pleased, proud, very smug look on her face. As far as I could see, everything was in ruins on the earth. So all so all that happened in a few seconds. So as soon as I looked at her, she parked in the sky and just turned her head only. Still her hands were holding the reins of the horse. As soon as she turned her head, my eyes and her eyes locked, and in a second she was right before me on earth. She was so close to me that maybe you could fit a piece of paper between us. She was so tall that my face was at her stomach. We seem to hear that quite a bit, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So face was at her stomach. She stood very straight, almost military like. She had no slouching like us humans sometimes stand. She was straight as a board in posture. I looked my head up to see her face, since my face was at her stomach, and when I did, it was like a download. When you're in when you're in the other dimensions, you don't have to verbally speak to communicate. So in seconds, I could feel and know what she was thinking and feeling. I saw she hated me and she desired to harm, hurt, or do anything to destroy me, but she was not given permission to so much as to even lay the tip of her finger gently on me. I was aware of this. I also knew she had authority that I did not have. I knew that God gave this thing its authority to accomplish what it is to do, which is authority I do not possess. But at the same time, God did not give it authority to even touch with the tip of its finger towards me. This thing was so beautiful. Its looks its looks was perfect, but it was covered in darkness. I don't know how that can be. Its arms and legs were very long, or was very long, longer than how humans' legs and arms are. Yet it was perfectly made. In my dream, I said to myself, I know who you are. And when I said this, I knew it by its personal name. But in real life, I don't know this. I thought to myself, I don't want you to know that I know who you are. I did not want to give it the pleasure of recognition of it, so I simply turned from it to where my back was to it, and I started digging again in the rubble. Then I felt it leave. I never turned back around to see it, and when I woke, I was disturbed by this dream. I never had any fear in the dream or when waking, but I was disturbed because I thought, how could I have dreamed such a thing? And it was a warning. I contemplated on it. It wasn't until the following year of 2021 did the world start to say famine is coming. Without going into what I'm sure most of your subs are aware of, the things occurring portrayed to logistics of food globally. I know that this thing will accomplish what it has been given to do. And we must remember that all of God's word will not return void, but be fulfilled. Peace and blessings rest upon all who love Messiah. Michelle. Yeah. So most of you guys, a lot of you guys out there know this, but of course some of you don't. Maybe a couple of things you could go look up. Well, let me show you just a couple of little things that happens to be related to this. So it's very timely in the story itself. So let's see. I think I've got it saved right down here so I can just kind of pull it up. Well, this is one of the things I wanted to show you. Okay, this is actually out of the Bible, uh, and it is Samuel 9:9, I think. Let me make sure. Yeah, 1 Samuel 9. Excuse me, 1 Samuel 9. Okay. And what it says, in case it's too small for you to read it, it says on verse 9, it says, before time, and I kind of referred to this earlier, but before time in Israel, when a man went to inquire of God, thus he spake, come, and let us go to the seer, SEER. And we're going to look at the definition of that in a second. Let us go to the seer, for he that is now called a prophet was before time called a seer. Okay? And if we have time, we might read more of this here in just a little. But right now, I have this I wanted to show you, which is that verse actually. But I wanted to show you the Strong's definition. Let me pull this up bigger. There we go. So this is seer, and it's called Raha, Raha, or Raha, Raha. Yeah, Raha. I think it's a closer pronunciation. I'm sure I'm still wrong. Raw, or it's saying pronunciation raw all, raw all. Okay, Hebrew is actually a language I really am being pushed to. I need to learn it and learn how to speak it fluently. But anyways, raw all, a primitive. This is seer, a primitive root to see, literally or figuratively, in numerous applications, direct or implied, transitive or intransitive or causative. Advise self, appear, approve, behold, idiom, certainly, consider, discern, make to, enjoy, have experience, gaze, take heed, indeed, joyful, lo, look, on one another, one on another, and this is referring to lo, look, on one another, one on another, one upon another, out, up, or upon. So lo to look, out, up, or upon to see. Okay, seer. Um, it also says mark, meet, be near, perceive, present, provide, regard, respect, uh, respect for cause to or let, to see one another, show self, sight of others, spy, stare, think, view, and visions. And this for Michelle was a vision. So so this kind of helps you understand, how it comes. The word prophet comes into play, and the seer, and the visions, and the ability to have eyes to see and ears to hear. And when you're able to do that, like many of you are coming to this point at this point, and what you're doing is you're able to see. You're a seer. You're a prophet. You're able to see what's coming. It's not here today. We can see it coming. It's prophesying. And there's nothing wrong with that. You're not claiming this. Like, even though I can see, or I can have eyes to see and ears to hear, you won't ever hear me running around saying the word prophet or pointing to myself or nothing. I don't never label myself. Okay, now let's look at, just real quick. This is the etymology. Looking at the word, one who foretells the future, a clairvoyant, prophet, soothsayer, or diviner. One who sees something. Someone who sees something, an eyewitness. Someone who foretells the future. Okay. All right. So why is this related to this? It's because that's what this is. Anything that is in the supernatural category, we've been taught growing up, ooh, don't touch that, don't look at it, don't think about it, just ignore it. And personally, I think that's a mistake, that we should be paying attention to the supernatural signs that are happening around us, because if not, we're not using our eyes to see. We're not using our ears to hear if we're ignoring everything. So we want to be a seer. Let's say it like this: we want to be a prophet. We want to have eyes to see and ears to hear. There's nothing evil about that unless you use it with evil goals and evil intent. That's my opinion. Okay, let's
Like
see here.
using tools or things
What were you going to say? Go ahead, Shannon.
like using tools and things to try to gain knowledge or things along those lines would be where you would be more on the evil side. But when it's coming to you and God is giving you visions and prophecy and being able to see, that's completely different than like asking an entity to show you something. So there's a difference, and it's a gift from God, I believe, when these kinds of things
Absolutely.
happen.
I mean, when God puts something in your mind, no matter how He does it or anything, and allows you to know something, it might be a good idea to take heed. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. We're gonna do a little something here. Maybe give you some homework. Not you, Shannon, but the people watching, right? So let's type in the word seer, right? Seer, seer, seer. Um, let's just search that word, and let's just look around. Let's look at the news. let's see. All right. Okay. So not really seeing what I'm kind of looking for here. So I'll leave it like this with you. Okay. On this subject, I'm kind of thinking about how to say this appropriately in this moment. So if you're claiming to be a seer, you're claiming to that, or if you're, say, you were a group of people and you were calling yourself a seer, or you were calling an event a seer, you would probably, it would be fair to say you were prophesizing that this was going to happen. There are, there is a group in this world right now that is using the word seer, and you might try to run it along with, let's see here. Let me see if I can see if it happens to come up. Uh, oh, you might want to look into some of this stuff. It's probably all just conspiracy theory, but there's some people out there that are claiming to be prophets because they're calling themselves seers, and they're calling it Seers 2025. They're saying we're a group of seers, and they're putting a date on it, 2025. Just look into that, right, Shannon? Just
Yeah,
look into it.
just look into it.
Just look into it
That
and
really
see
getting
what they're prophesying. What are they prophesying? And it's not something we're going to get into here right now. If you want to hear in-depth opinion on that, you probably want to find yourself your way over to my other channel, because there's going to be a video coming out, and I'm going to just say it. Okay? But for here and for now, I'm giving you some homework. Go do a little homework. And it ain't going to take much looking to see what these prophets are claiming to be prophesying. Okay? And then you have to ask yourself, well, how can they do this for the second time in a row to say something is coming and something's going to happen? Yeah. All right. Enough about that. Michelle, thank you, darling, for sending that in. And it's actually perfect timing. It's an awesome story. The visuals in it and the details of it are going to go into my research database where I'm going to be linking it all together so that we can see the bigger picture. Okay, when it comes to things related to this and many other things. Okay, and that information will be presented here and possibly another location or two, depending on the level and depth of how far we're going to go in it. I hope y'all guys understand. Okay, so let's see here. Let's see here. What I'm going to do next is I am going to tell the next story, and it's a true story that happened to me. I actually might tell a couple of stories, one in full detail, the other one is like this. Back in around, and those of you that have known me for over a decade, or let's just say you've known me over over 3 or 4 years, you know this happened. Back around 20, uh, let me share my screen real quick again. I think, yeah. Let me show you this word. Okay. Back around 2015, right in that area, as a seer, you are using your eyes and your intuition and your God-given abilities to be able to see and prophesy as to what you see coming. Kind of like that other group. And I could see back then, and I was making repeated videos, and I could pull up the files from the videos right now because I still have them all the images and all the files of everything. But I could see that there was a reset coming, and I was making videos about it. I don't know if you remember those or not, Shannon.
I do.
You do, okay?
Yes.
And it was because I could see through the way that symbolism is being used, that it was being projected. There was a reset coming, and of course, there's no secret, and it's not a conspiracy at all that we are in the midst of what they are calling the Great Reset, right?
Mhm.
That was by the World Economic Forum, because they're very concerned about protecting us, and so they've come up with this Great Reset concept and ideas and everything, and there's the guy that's in charge of it all, the ultimate crown holder, right? So yeah, so I could see the reset coming, and I did prophesy that it was coming, and it is here. And it's appropriate to talk about what Michelle wrote in about, actually. Now, enough about that. Let's go ahead and get back to me telling my story, an actual in depth story. It's not exactly related, but this is a true story that happened to me. Something similar to it has happened several times. It's kind of like one of those I should be dead stories. Let me give you a couple of examples of why I shouldn't be sitting here. When I was 17 or 18 years old, I was out riding around with two other friends. Um, the one in the driver's seat in the front, his name was Ernie. The one in the passenger seat was named, slipping my mind at the moment, probably coming to me in a minute. Ernie was driving. We were out riding around. We were 17, 18-year old. We weren't drinking anything, or we just decided to go out riding around having a good time. And we ran into a guy because we were driving about a 70 something Camaro, and Ernie was in the process of rebuilding it. And the priorities were engine, fast. And that was obviously the priorities because the car ran and it was fast, but there was no interior in the car. It did have the two front bucket seats in the old 70s Camaro, and in the back seat it did have the seat across the bottom, but that was it. Everything else was metal throughout the entire car, raw metal. So we meet up with this other guy. His name was Tracy, and I went to high school with him, and he was driving a nicer later 70s model Trans Am, so very similar. And we were out cruising around, and we decided, hey, you know what would be a good idea? We should race. That'd be a good idea. And everybody thought that was a great idea. Even me too, I reckon. And so we knew kind of a long straightaway out in Conway that was beside what used to be called the Fast Fair. It was a gas station, and the road went way out of town and had this long straightaway where you could race real good, get up some real good speed. So we went out there, turned around, and go. The only thing was is we didn't say, nobody ever said where the finish line was. Where was the finish line? Back in town somewheres, or where was it determined who won? The person that come out of the hole the quickest, or the person that got to the highest speed, or the person that got to the deadly curve that was down the road? This long straightaway came into a point where it was, you know what? I can make this a little bit better by simply pulling up a map and showing you where this happened at. Let me share the screen once again. Okay, so here we are in the town where I grew up at. Pretty small town in general, but not tiny. And let's see, let's go downtown in Conway. Let's see here, get myself oriented here as to where I'm at. Okay, coming into town, old town. Okay, let me see here, right down here, I think. I don't live in Conway anymore, and I'm trying to remember which street it was that went out of town here. I'll find it here in a second. Oh, here we go. I see it now. This was the old Collins Park. This was the park in the center of the town. And this restaurant right here is in the same building that the fast fair used to be in, the gas station. And we left and went out of town down this road here. And it goes out here pretty far, as you can see, all the way down to a dead end down here, right there in the center of the screen. So we come down here, we turned around, and we took off and raced back this way. But the problem is that we never said where are we stopping? How do we tell who won? We're just being dumb kids, really dumb. So we took off down this road, and I'm in the back seat, and I leaned up and I'm looking, and somewhere's along in here, I realized we're doing 140 miles an hour. That's what it said on the speedometer. And I leaned up and I said to Ernie, because I knew this curve right here was coming. I leaned up and said to Ernie, Ernie, there is a sharp curve up here. And as soon as I said that, next thing I know is the curve goes like whomp right in our face. And right when that happened, everything went into slow motion. Boom. And everything was like super slow mo. And I remember looking to my left because we were coming up into the curve at 140 right here. And I knew there was a little dip in the road. And it was on our side of the road. Tracy, the other guy in the other car, he was taking the inside lane, which means he was risking hitting somebody coming head on from the other way. Now, remember, we were 17, 18 dummies here. So don't judge me. I'm telling the true story, the way it happened. And we come along here, and as soon as we hit that dip, things went downhill real fast. I looked to my left, and the last thing I remember seeing was Tracy. He's still on the road, and we're off the road in the air. We haven't made contact with much yet. And that was the last moment I seen him coming by. You could say we won the race, but somehow we lost. So we went off the road. Basically, car just went straight right here. And I think I should be able to do a Google Earth and come right here and show you where we wrecked at. Yeah, okay. All right, let's come down here a little bit further, one way or the other here. Let's see here. Okay. So here we are coming along here, and there's a hump in this road right in here somewheres. And we leave the road. Let me see here. Hang on just a second, guys. Let me make sure. Oh, I can see it right there. It's changed a lot since we wrecked here. It's changed quite a bit. Yeah. But this house sitting back here, these pine trees, I mean, this has been 30 years ago. These pine trees weren't even here. What was here was a long fence, and it was made out of wood posts that were about, I don't know, 4 to 6 inches across. So it was a long fence along here. And this driveway wasn't here. At least I don't believe. Let me go right up here and look at this next area. Nope, that would have been after the curve. So yeah, it obviously happened right back here. Let me go one more click, spin back around. So there's this fence, and these trees aren't here. You can see those are pine trees, but they grow very fast and they're not there. And I think I know why he planted pine trees out there, because we came off this curb and tore down a long bunch of the fence. And we came basically the front end of the car stove the dirt, and we flipped end over end several times. And there's some bigger pine trees right in here that we nailed. We hit like 3 trees, 3 big pine trees. And when the car come to a settle, we were laying out in the grass of this yard out here. Let's see if I can go back down here so I can see in the yard better a little bit. Yeah. So we were laying right out there. We're now the inside his yard there, basically. And I was laying out of these. This is a 2-door car, and I was laying out of the door, and I was laying on my stomach facing the dirt. Right beside me, because the front seat was leaning forward, and I was laying out. Right beside me was a pine tree, a huge one, smashed into the side of the car where I was just sitting. And the door was open, and I crawled out, and I'm like touching myself, feeling myself everywhere, checking everything, because I'm dead, right? Or I've got to be hurt bad. And I'm like, no, I don't think I am. So immediately I'm like, where's Ernie? Where's what's the guy's name? I don't remember it as soon as I get off this live stream. Anyways, I started looking for the other guys, and I look in the passenger seat in the front, and no one's in there. But I look over in the driver's floorboard up under the steering wheel. That's where the passenger was at. Somehow he ended up under the steering wheel, folded up like a pretzel underneath there. And I jumped in the car and started smacking on him and asking him if he was okay. And he started crawling out of the car, and he had a dislocated shoulder. And I think he had a broke finger, and he had some cuts and stuff on him. And we were like, I mean, he was walking, he was alive, but we were like, where's Ernie? We were like looking around. And Ernie was laying out here in the yard. He was back out here somewhere where this driveway's at now, which it didn't used to be there. He was laid out in the yard where the car had tumbled. It threw him out the window or out the door, because both doors were standing wide open. And he's just laid out, face down, not moving. And of course, the immediate thought is he's been squashed by the car, probably. So we ran over there, and we're like, Ernie, Ernie, Ernie. And he didn't say nothing. And we're like, touched him, and he went, I don't know if you've ever heard that from somebody that's gotten hurt pretty good. That sound that you make when you're out of your freaking head, basically. Yeah, he was like, and we were like, Ernie, wake up, wake up. We got him, woke up. He was hurt and had a number of injuries. Nobody got anything like an injury bad enough to kill him. Tracy, who had made it around the curve, had turned around and came back, and we all immediately just loaded in his car and took off for the emergency room. literally, it was within 3 minutes of wrecking the car in this guy's front yard. He was a doctor. And we wrecked this car in the front yard and left it sitting there. And we were gone within like 3 minutes. Because Tracy spun around, come right back, got us. We jumped in the car and took off to the emergency room because the guy that I can't remember his name that was in the front passenger seat, his shoulder was dislocated and both of them were all scratched and cut up. Took them to the hospital and we all got out and said, we've been in a terrible accident and we need help. And I still really at that moment hadn't completely realized the fact of my condition. And they went checking Ernie out and they went check John. That was his name. John. Yep. Ernie and John. They started looking at John. Okay, let's get you in the room. And they're looking at me and they're like, where do you hurt? Where are you cut? Are you this? Are you that? No, 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 no. Are you sore anywhere? No, no. Neck? No, no. And they said, well, let's call your parents. I said, oh no, I'm not hurt. I'm fine. I'm leaving. I'm good. So I turned around and walked out. Literally walked out of the hospital. And I literally didn't have a scratch on me. And John and Ernie will remember this if they ever happen to see this or whatever. They will remember I didn't even have a scratch. And we should have got hurt. I mean, 140 mile an hour in a car, end over end, hitting pine trees, and the car had no interior; it was all raw metal. I mean, we should have really gotten hurt, but I didn't. And you say, "Well, you just got lucky." Okay, all right. How's this for luck? This was years later, but there was another time where I was driving. It was late at night, and I was headed home, and I was just driving along, and there was a bridge. There was a slight curve, and the bridges down here, because this is all flat lowland, the bridges are all flat. Well, the ones out in the country, anyways. The bridges are all flat, and I'm cruising along, and I fell asleep. Fell asleep. And next thing I remember was a car going off, or actually a truck going off the edge of the road, and I was already off, and it was the last tire leaving the road. And that what I had done was on this slight curve, I had went in straight and went off into a swamp. And there was a bridge there that covered the swamp, and I went off right before the bridge. And the last thing I remember was looking to my left. This is me. I woke up and I'm fixing to get in a terrible crash. Now, why would I go back to sleep? I wasn't drunk or anything like that. I had dozed off and ran off the road. And here I go. And I wake up and I realize I've run off the road and the bridge is over to my left. And I'm going into the swamp. Now, all of a sudden, of course, everything went slow motion. Kaboom. And from that moment, from there, for the next few seconds, I could not see or hear nothing. It was like I wasn't even there. Because the next thing I know is the truck is dropped onto the road, still going like 45, 50 miles an hour. I felt it when the truck just dropped on the road. It woke me up. And I say woke me up, I became aware. I was already awake before I went in the other side of the bridge and went through the swamp. But here it is. The swamp, if I would have ran down in there, I should have wrecked the living crap out of the truck. I should have not come out the other side, but I did. And the tires on the truck didn't even get muddy. And I ran through a swamp. And personally, this is what I think, is I think that some or all of us have destinies, and we're not allowed to just check out so easily and make a dumb mistake and die. Because, trust me, I've done plenty of those, and I should be dead, but I'm not. 140 mile an hour, end over end, hitting pine trees, not a scratch. Run off the road through a swamp on down the side of a bridge that was probably, I don't know, 15, 20 foot drop off. Not even dirty tires on the truck. The only thing it did was there was a pole uh, right before, there was a light pole right before you went on the bridge, and the pole smacked the mirror off the truck. So the mirror was gone. But that was basically about it. And so, how can there not be an element or a God or something that is right there all the time, right with us all the time? It's because there is, and I've witnessed it. I have other stories. I'm a big dummy. I've run off all kinds of things and tried to kill myself. I've done jumped out of airplanes. I've done all kind of crazy stuff. And yet I'm never allowed to die. And I've never even gotten hurt in any of this really dumb stuff I've done. You ever had anything like that happen to you, Shannon?
Yes, as a matter of fact, in 2000, was it 2000 or 2001? I was in a horrific car accident with my truck. Um, I don't know. Here in California, Riverside County, we have this extremely long stretch of road called Van Buren, and to me it's cursed. There has been so many car accidents on that road. I mean, deadly ones, absolutely horrific car accidents, and I ended up being one of those. And I should have been dead. I literally should have been dead, but instead I just ended up with just a big, concussion. My face was gashed up, and things along those lines, but I didn't have a broken bone. I didn't have anything along those lines. And the only thing I actually remember, you know, um, after impact was literally flying up and talking to someone, like a being, like a guardian angel or something, and looking down on the car accident scene and asking, what am I looking at? Like, whose fault was it? And um, like, this being said something to me. I couldn't remember what, but it said, "You're okay." And then the next thing I know, I'm like screaming through, having a fit in an ambulance, screaming, "Whose fault is it? Whose fault is it?" And but long story short, luckily neither one of us uh, died. The only injury the other person sustained was a little bit of carpal tunnel. Um, we really walked out of that in a miracle, and I should have been dead. I really should have been, and I'm here to tell the story. So
I think a lot of people have had these kind of things happen to them, and we all just take the incident and pack it away somewhere. But we need to realize, why were we allowed to continue?
right, I have constant reminders. I'm never allowed to forget that accident, because all of the glass that was in my face, I still to this day will have pieces of glass working its way out of my face. So it's like, oh well, can't
There's another
forget
piece of
that
glass.
happened. Huh?
I've heard of that before. People finding glass years after.
Years. It's the most bizarre thing. I'll just like one day be like, what the heck? And it seems like it's a blemish, but it's not. And a little tiny piece of glass comes
It's a little
out.
shard, yeah. And I realize too that some people get some injuries, and some people even, like, I remember this has bothered me for a long time. I had a friend named Troy, and he's passed on now. out of his respect for his family, I'm not going to say his last name. But his name was Troy. He was a couple of years younger than me, and it was him, and he had two brothers. Um, and he had gotten 16, and I was like 17 or 18. I was like a senior in school, and he was just a couple of years behind me. And he had just gotten his driver's license, and he apparently had an old truck that he could drive, and something actually very close to where I went off that bridge. I don't think it was, no, it couldn't have been the same one, but very close to where I went off that bridge was where he had wrecked one night, and he ran off, hit a tree or two, and it killed him. And he was the coolest dude. I mean, he was nice, he was gentle, he just weren't a jerk like a lot of young boys. And it's like I never, it's bothered me like why him and not me, or why not me and but him is. Of course, I guess it's not meant for us to understand, but it's like I realize, what I was saying is I realize some people get hurt bad, some people end up in wheelchairs, some people this and that. But I can only tell you the truth in that I've never gotten hurt. I've never even had a broken bone, and I've done stupid, stupid stuff. My my niece, she calls me, and I'm not claiming this, okay, but she calls me unbreakable. And now, obviously, I'm breakable, but for some reason, God in heaven, our Creator, has spared me, literally sent a stop to everything that's going on. I mean, I remember another time when I was driving and I had a couple of guys in the back seat. And this was in Kentucky when I was in the military. I was driving, had two guys in the back seat, one beside me. Uh, don't even think we had even had a beer or anything like that. And it was in Kentucky, so it wasn't my hometown. I was in the military. We were all about 21, 22, right close to Fort Knox, Kentucky. Making sure it was Kentucky. Yeah, Kentucky. I'm driving down this road, and I'd never been down the road before. It was nighttime, cruising along about 55 mile an hour, and all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I seen a sign that said the road goes that way, and it was referring to now. And so I grabbed for some hole in the steering wheel, but I turned the steering wheel like, ah! There was no way to make this turn because it was a 90-degree turn that just went, you know. But I whipped the wheel, don't have any memory of how we got around the turn. The next thing I know is I'm driving straight on the road. And I looked and I asked the guys, I said, did y'all guys see that turn? How did we get around that turn? And nobody remembered us going around the turn. We turned around, stopped right there, and turned around, went back to the 90-degree turn, and nobody knew how we got around it. I mean, didn't wreck, but it's like crazy. I don't know why this stuff happens in my life so much.
Well,
It's absolute truth. I don't need to make this up for entertainment purposes. There's enough crazy stuff to entertain you out there.
well, in a way, God knew like that was what would impact you to understand the supernatural aspect of what has been going on. Because, I know in my experiences with the injuries that I did sustain, even though I'm alive and shouldn't be on a lot of levels, those were in a way reminders. In a way, God was talking to me and humbling me in different ways. But in your situation, it seems to me God is like, you are unscathed. Take note of this. This is me. And you are being spared, because look at the amazing influence you have had on all of these people's lives for the last 10 years, just with your Logic Before Authority channel and everything that you've done. There is a definite purpose that God has had for you in your life. And that's one way for you to know, is like, you have not been touched.
Been proven to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right. I hadn't thought about it quite like that, but I definitely believe. And it helps to have proof like that. And that's a lot what this channel's about, is having people coming in. Yeah, they're telling stories that are like almost unbelievable, but they're true and they happen. And we need to realize what they are and why it happens and what is the meaning for these things when it happens, and understand it. And the only way you can understand anything in life is to look closely and pay attention and slow down, And so yeah, thanks. That's that's exactly what it is. Is I was being um, educated the hard way, but
Yeah.
without dying. So hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's see. I can't wait till we start actually doing call-ins, and look forward to doing that here very soon. You got anything on your mind today, Shannon?
Um, today is my husband's birthday, so I'm getting ready to celebrate,
Oh,
life, which is always awesome. And other than that, I really thoroughly enjoyed today's story, because I feel that um, in the supernatural sense, that that whole thing gave me chills, especially about how the being was clothed in darkness, and that
mm-hmm.
she could understand what that was and could feel that. And the whole idea of the rubble going through it. I've had similar types of visions and dreams of the destruction around,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
you're gonna have to tell us some of those stories. You've told me some of that before, but I think on one of these next episodes, if I'm lucky enough to have you come again, um, you should probably talk about some of that stuff in depth.
yeah, the whole seer thing, being um, prophesying all of that stuff, visions that God has given me. It's been very prominent in my life. So, I was the story today was, in a sense, to me, almost, what's that? The word I'm looking for?
Pathetic.
Yeah, and connected with things that I've
Prophetic.
experienced and had seen. So, you know,
It,
and
it felt kind of supernatural in itself, because I was reading her story, and then instantly something told me, you need to understand this better. You know, what is it that she's saying here? Look it up in the Bible and see what someone who sees visions are. Oh, they're called a seer. And then I went, ding, seer. And because I knew what that word was associated with, but I hadn't understood it yet. Now we know they're prophesying.
yeah.
And if you're wondering what we're talking about, you're going to have to look it up, do some homework, and I'll be putting out a video over in the woods in the Shadow Band Park. Uh, Anybody out there? I'm looking at the comments and stuff. So if you got anything that you've got on your mind, feel free to share it, and we'd be happy to likely post it. That kind of thing. How long we been going today? I don't even have a clue at this point.
A little over an hour.
Okay, we're at about an hour. Yeah, a little. Ooh, we're over schedule.
It was a good
Well, so
conversation.
we covered. I'm sorry, Shannon. Go ahead.
It was a good conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we covered Shell's story, my story, particularly the message of the seer, the prophesier, and that there are a group of people prophesying some things to come that you need to know about and you need to be aware of if you're watching this. But I'm not going to say anything about it other than you need to go look. So I guess with all that being said, make sure y'all guys, if you get a chance, go over and check out Shannon's music that she does. Um, she's got a beautiful voice, and she 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 does a great job with her music. It's a kind of a unique style.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
know I don't have a ton of stuff up yet, but my music's coming out here pretty
working on it.
soon. Yeah, we're gonna have a lot more coming out here pretty soon, which I'm looking forward to because I think some of this music is very closely related to a lot of the
Mm.
subject matters that we talk about on this show. So
Yeah, I would love to see you write and sing a prophetic song. You know
I,
what I'm saying?
mm-hmm, I
Say
think
it in a.
in for a treat because I've got some cool
Oh,
stuff
you're working on
about
that.
that. Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
We'll
because
see.
I know it's in you,
Yeah.
and you have a very unique style, and a style that will still attract. Um, well, let's just call them the average sheep. You might say the average person that's not really, their eyes aren't open very good yet. You have to be able to attract them too. See, someone come listen to me that's an average sheep, and I don't know what they're gonna think, but I don't attract the average sheep, that kind of thing
I
much.
can. You
I
mean like
try.
it
I'm
still
even,
stayed on the mainstream enough to
yeah,
fit in?
to know where you got to be, kind of thing. Yeah. Well, I look forward to that. You haven't told me you were working on that, so that's cool.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
excited.
Well, you'll make sure to go over and give her a visit. And let's see, I'm looking at the comments again here,
Mhm.
make sure I don't miss anybody or anything particular. Oh, what Karen said. Karen Lee said she was talking back at Charlie, and I'm assuming that might be, oh, it is Charlie West. Um, he'd said this, and she was responding. Hi, Charlie. He's got the Supernatural Channel record right now for a number of stories. So, and then she was responding, I don't think we actually die, we will transform. And she says she truly believes that. Death is a word that was created to instill, like, to me, it's like a word of, it has a lot of fear because the way we were raised and taught, we were taught to be afraid of death, and we better do everything we want to do now because you're going to die in a few years, and it's like, this is not the ultimate life. This life, on occasions, more like hell than it is anything else. But we're here to learn, I think, and it's like we're like babies in a classroom, kind of. You know, maybe they even resend us back to class every now and then. I don't know. We might get, what do you call it? Flunked. Yeah, I probably flunked a bunch of times.
But might be why you have come out of all these things unscathed because you still, you know, it's not your time.
Not my time. No,
Not your
I'm still
time.
trying to perfect this world or understanding it. That's for sure.
Well, and again, helping others to bring out their stories. This is the coolest channel. I'm just saying. I'm not saying this because I'm co-hosting or anything. It's so exciting because so many of us have all these stories and prophetic incidences or encounters with something of light or darkness, and all that needs to be shared out there more, so we all kind of feel that we're not crazy. I feel like this subject matter's coming full circle from the last show we did, but again, this is just such a neat channel. I'm excited to see it grow.
Yeah, thanks, Shannon. I am too. We're still trying to figure out what the show is, and well, I know I have the vision of it, but how to do it all and what format's best, and we're still getting it rolling. But yeah, definitely excited. I believe this is important
Mm-hmm.
for us to understand that there is another realm and that there are times where the veil is crossed and supernatural things happen, and we need to know why. And we don't need to just ignore it. We need to understand it. Um,
Well, I
Bible
feel
says, "Prove all things."
right.
So that's my intent, is to prove all things. Well, guys, I hope you all have enjoyed the show today. We're trying to do one, say we, meaning me, and then Shannon's always welcome to come whenever she's available, but she also has a full-time career and life and everything else, and kids and a husband, and they all need attention and love too. But I hope you have learned something maybe today, maybe gave you something to think about. We're going to take all this information and database it and do a lot of things with it and bring it back to you again in other ways. And anybody who submits a story is going to end up in my book. And so hopefully everybody keeps submitting. And if you're new here, please go over. Let me show you real quick in case you're new. Go over to, whoops, let's don't do that one. Let's use this one. Go over to the website. It's called the Supernatural Show. Fill out the information. You can see it's like name or nickname, so you don't even have to give your real name. Name or nickname, your email, phone number, because I might call you up and chat with you or ask you a question, or depending on the story and how you answer some of the questions. You can choose whether you're willing to tell the story live or not, or if you maybe just want to write it in. I'm happy either way, as long as you submit your story. And then you can attach a video or a picture or pictures, and also give me a link to maybe your website or something that's related to the story, and submit that, and I will get it personally. And then also, if you just happen to know about something supernatural that happened, you can go here and fill out this form down below that other one. Just put in the name or nickname, email, what if anything you know about the story, and give me the link URL, and I'll check it out. So you can submit your story, which is really what I want, or a lead on a supernatural story that we might want to look into a little bit, because I tend to like to see you're into things, you know. So, with that being said, I think we're going to wrap up the show for today. Any closing thoughts? My best co-host ever.
Well, again, I look forward to seeing your awesomeness next time. I look forward to the next show. And you guys, if you have any suggestions,
Yeah,
keep them kind, of course. But if
yeah.
you have any
I'll try to be
suggestions,
nice.
feel free to let us know what we can do to improve, as this is a little baby
Yeah,
still and we're
even
growing.
positive criticism is appreciated.
Yeah, but still be nice about it. No,
As long as you're not going to tell me to shave and
right.
cut my hair off, I ain't doing that. I mean, okay, maybe I need to clean it up a little bit, but I'm
And
just
if
me. I'm not going to hide and pretend and be something else. And
right.
yes, please do submit your
Yeah, and
thoughts. You
if you
can
know
definitely. There's a way to contact me on the website. You can go on there and click on contact, and it gives you several ways to contact the show.
And if you know some people who have some stories but they haven't heard of this show, let them know that they can submit their stories too, because just because they're not fans of us yet doesn't mean they won't be later. Just kidding. Bring in your stories. Okay.
Bring them on board. We want to know. And the truth is not. We're not looking for the entertainment value. We're looking for the truth, and we're looking to study the truth, just like we've been doing for years, but just a little bit more pointed at studying the supernatural truth of what keeps peeking through to see us on the other side of the veil and causes supernatural events. You know.
And I feel like a lot of these stories will help to connect each other's stories and give validation too to others. Like, oh, you too? Oh, I wasn't the only one. All right.
Validation, because we've been trained to think that we're crazy, or that someone else is crazy because they're doing this or they're talking about this or they believe this. They must be crazy. That's a bunch of bull,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So, with that being said, guys, thank you, Shannon, for being here once again.
Thank you, Daniel, for
And tell the family we said hello and thank you and thank them for your time. I am grateful. And thank you guys for being here. And with that being said, we'll see you next time, guys. Bye bye for now.
Bye.